Hello and welcome to the first ever episode of the ZLoosliLog Video Log. So, I think I'd like to start out by talking a little bit about why I wanted to do a video blog. So, for me, the text blog has always been about connecting with my extended family and preserving bits of my life for posterity. This is sort of my version of a journal. I find that typing it helps me, and having other people keeping me accountable also helps me. And this video blog is sort of an extension of that, where you can actually see my face, hear my voice, admire the wonderful wall of food storage that sits behind me in my basement office where I'm filming this, that sort of thing. So, so this is sort of going to be little anecdotes and stories that I didn't put in the blog itself, but that I think is worth telling the world, whether because they were inspirational or funny, or I just like to talk about myself and only the people who really like to hear me talk about myself are watching this. So, the first story is the story about my homework Tuesday night. So, Tuesday night, I went to Go Club, and I talked about that in the blog. You can see that for more details on Go Club. But after Go Club, I came home, and I was working on my homework until 11 o'clock that night, at which point my parents made me go to bed, which sort of made sense, because I had to wake up at 5 the next morning for seminary. But anyway, I was up till 11. Next morning, I'm working on the homework in the car from seminary to school. I'm working on my homework once I get to school in the library before the first bell rings. The bell rings, and I go to my first period, and I'm about 2/3 of the way done, which is considerable progress for 15 minutes. Not saying that I did all 2/3 in 15 minutes, but still, I'd made a lot of progress. However, I was not done, and it was due second period. I was hoping that we wouldn't have too much to do during first hour, but really, I was quite positive that I was going to have to turn it in late, which means usually less credit. So, I get to first period, and turns out they were watching a movie that day, which was quite fortunate for me. I was able to work on it for most of the hour, while still completing the assignment pertaining to the movie. And so I finished my homework at 8:03 a.m., and I turned it in at 8:06 a.m. For full credit and everything, so that was a big blessing. Speaking of blessings in school, I had a math test on Thursday, and it was a partner test, so me and my partner absolutely flew through this thing, and seriously, I was getting mad at myself for how slow I was going, because I could not think that day for some reason. Probably because I'd only gotten a few hours, probably because I had seminary that morning, so I don't get enough sleep more nights than not. But anyway, we had the whole test but one question done in 15 minutes. And we come back to this one question, and the reason that we hadn't been able to get it done was because it talked about the mid-segment of a right triangle, and neither of us could for the life of us remember what a mid-segment was. We knew it had something to do with middles and possibly midpoints, so we spent about 10 minutes, or maybe 15, working on this one problem, trying different potential definitions of mid-segment. None of them are working out, and eventually I hit myself on the head. I'm like, dang it, I haven't prayed about this problem yet. So I pray about the problem, and the first thought that comes to my mind is, draw the mid-segment of a trapezoid, because trapezoids have mid-segments as well, and I knew for sure what the mid-segment of a trapezoid was. So I literally doodle a trapezoid, draw a line through it, and the definition just pops into my head in a way that I am confident could only be inspiration, because it took us 15 minutes and we still hadn't solved it. So there's no, in my opinion, there's almost no chance that this was not divine influence. And later we look it up after the test, and sure enough, that's the definition of mid-segment. So that was also a huge blessing. The other big thing that happened this week was Friday and Saturday. I had a robotics tournament, and I talked a little bit about how well we did score-wise in the blog, but just a couple of funny stories from that. First off, it was actually pretty boring. I'm a huge robot nerd. I like technology and that sort of thing, but the tasks that we were supposed to do weren't all that exciting. It got more exciting on Saturday as the weaker teams got eliminated, but for the most part it was just me sitting in hard wooden bleachers reading a book. But there were a few exciting moments. The biggest one was when Reese, who is one of my teammates, that may or may not be his real name to protect his identity, was doing Gangnam Style. Now, I don't know if you've seen the Gangnam Style video. You probably have. You hopefully haven't. But there's one point where there's this awkward dance move that I am not going to do because even though I know that you are a friendly audience, I really don't feel like embarrassing myself and putting that on YouTube. And I would, for a fact, embarrass myself. But he's doing this dance move from Gangnam Style where you, like, shake your hips back and forth and do a sort of sideways Charlie Brown that moves you sideways. It's about a 5-second period where you're just doing this dance move over and over again. And in this 5-second period, he covers about 25 feet, which means that he is massively exaggerating the move, which is not easy to do. And he does this as well as other just very exaggerated and facially expressive takes on the dance move of this really bad and really popular song. And apparently someone across the room is doing the same thing. One of the MCs notices what they're doing and says, "Dance off, dance off." So they both start executing some of their best moves and some of their most entertaining takes on the official Gangnam Style dance. And then they sit down thinking that their job is done, but the MC makes them stand back up again because he would like to play a song purely for their dance-off, Party Rock Anthem, which is, I think, a very appropriate choice for this sort of thing. Most of the people watching this will probably know what that is. If not, it's not really important to the story. I just felt like throwing that in there. But they play Party Rock Anthem. They both do a very entertaining job. I'm a bit biased, but I would say that we